All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. First, a thank you to everybody for giving me last week off. It was my kids' fall break and gave a chance for the family to spend a little more time together. Will, Lila, Brittany, and even Winnie are the reasons that I do what I do. I love them. They are incredibly supportive of both me and this job, and thank you for giving me just a little extra time with them. All right, we have got a lot to go over today, 2 weeks worth of information, everything from great economic development news to manufacturing month here in Kentucky to an update on the flooding and some good progress that's being made. We're going to talk a little bit about medical marijuana, as well as a couple of other updates that are out there. Let's start with jobs, new jobs, and more jobs here in Kentucky. Today, we have exciting news that shows how these 2 years of record-breaking economic development are reaching all parts of the Commonwealth. Today, we have 2 announcements in Jefferson County, but then one in Bell and one in Fulton County, showing we are reaching all parts of Kentucky, even those that in the past may have been left out. So I want to highlight some great projects, starting with Vitronic Machine Vision, which later today will celebrate the completion of a Louisville expansion and the opening of a new customer collaboration center. This company has been part of Jefferson County's business sector for the past 23 years, developing innovative technology for several industries, including automotive. It's a good time to be a part of the automotive industry in Kentucky, logistics, and traffic enforcement. In fact, this expansion, which is creating between 35 and 50 new skilled jobs, comes in response of the company's need to accommodate new major customer projects within the logistics center. Vitronic is a Germany-based company that has been in operation since 1984, providing a portfolio of systems and software for image and sensor-based quality inspection, identification, and traffic monitoring, among other uses. Globally, the company maintains a presence of more than 80 countries and employs 1,300 people, making it pretty special that so much of what they do in North America, they do right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I could not be happier to see them growing. I'd like to welcome Daniel Schulstein and Group CEO, and Shell Lindstad, President and CEO of Vitronic North America, to come up and share a little bit more about their incredible company and this investment in Louisville. Gentlemen, please.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah, thank you, Governor, from our side. And we are very happy to be here and to share our story with you. And so we prepared a little introduction about the company. Here, you already mentioned the different sectors we are in. And I think, as you said, it's a very good opportunity for us to be part of this growth that happens here in Kentucky. And we are very happy to share this story with you. So maybe you can start with a little video. That should be coming up. So this is showing our different sectors we are in. So you see here the logistics sector, the healthcare sector, the traffic sector for traffic enforcement, traffic monitoring, smart city approaches that we are delivering worldwide. And I think we can move on to the next slide.
One more, please.
Okay. So you mentioned already some of the figures about the company. So what has to be mentioned is we're a family-owned business, and despite this quite large operations we are still in family hands. And so we have a total revenue of $200 million in the past year. This year we're gonna be much higher than that again. Also thanks to the growth that is happening here in the US. As you also see here, we do a lot of investment in R&D, so 15 million per year, and we are global. We have a global presence, but the US has always been a very important market for us. And as you mentioned, we are here since 1999, So it has always been a pleasure to work in Kentucky and to serve the US market. And we are also expanding the US market presence to the full Americas presence from here. So Shell will lead this development, and hand over to Shell.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Get to the next slide, please. So as we saw, we are focused on best-in-class machine vision technology. We are involved in smart mobility, logistics automation, as Daniel showed, automotive, electric vehicle, and healthcare. We have, as Daniel said, been here in Louisville, Kentucky, actually since 1999. That's when we first established our first global subsidiary outside of Germany. It was set up in Kentucky, so that's great. That was with the big Rollport project. That's where we established our presence here in Kentucky. Of course, it's a good location for the logistics business. We have been growing since then. You know, we're strong in logistics, but we're growing in all of the other areas as well, with a strong customer base, as you saw some of those marquee names there in logistics and in traffic enforcement as well. So especially this year, we are growing a lot in all of our market segments, including a very large national scale deployment with the leading US package delivery provider. That is sort of expanding the needs for the facilities that we have in Louisville. So we have expanded our operation space, and we are opening and establishing a customer collaboration center. It's a space where we can work with our partners, innovate with them, and showcase our technology solutions, in real, like close to what the real innovation with real operation environments will be like for our customers. So with that, we are expanding our space in Louisville with about 50% and adding, as the governor showed earlier, significant number of people to our team to build and support the growth that we are going through.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us here.
Thanks for betting on Kentucky.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
We
it.
appreciate you. All right. A great company that today is joined by a couple of other good announcements. It was just yesterday that Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman joined Flash Steelworks, Inc. as company leaders broke ground on a $12.1 million steel manufacturing center in Middlesboro. Flash Steelworks is a Michigan-based company with an established track record, having been founded in 2006. I'm thrilled to see the company establish this presence in our state, and even happier to see it's going to create 250 full-time jobs in Bell County over the next 15 years. In fact, 100 of those jobs are going to be created in the next 3 years alone. These are quality jobs for Southeastern Kentucky families at an average hourly wage of $39 an hour, not only delivering jobs to Bell County, but great paying jobs to Bell County. The project is also supported by a $1 million grant in Appalachian Regional Commission funding, which is being matched by $5 million in state funds allocated from the 2022 state budget. And this is important work that's going to be done at this facility. It's going to use highly specialized electronic thermal process to produce blast-resistant but lightweight military-grade plate steel. The investment follows a contract received by the company with the Federal Department of Defense to produce armor for the U.S. military. So that armor that protects our troops is going to be made right here in Kentucky. It's an exciting project. It's a meaningful project. Every time we deploy someone, we want to make sure that we have given them the best chance to come home safe and sound, and that's what this company is going to be working towards. I want to thank the company's leadership for investing in the Commonwealth and creating good jobs for our residents. Next, I want to highlight another exciting expansion in Louisville within our healthcare sector. eBlue Solutions, a software company founded in 2012, provides a secure single portal software platform for electronic prior authorization and benefits verification, and aims to streamline the current nature of the approval process for specialty medication treatments. Leaders at the company, which is based in Louisville, have announced they're going to be relocating their corporate office, investing nearly $700,000 and creating 82 new full-time jobs for Kentuckians. The investment will allow the company to expand business opportunities while continuing to attract top talent, and will host all of eBlue's operations and development team. The 82 jobs this project will create will bring the company's total employment in Kentucky to over 150 individuals. That highlights their community to this Commonwealth and to our workforce. Our healthcare-related industries provide some of the most important services to Kentuckians offered throughout the state, and seeing quality companies like eBlue grow their presence is a great sign, not just for our economy, but for those who consume healthcare services, which are our families. We want them to be healthier. We want it to be easier. Navigating our healthcare system can be so complicated. You get all the stuff in the mail, and it's hard to even understand what some of it is. Every innovation that can make healthcare more accessible and understandable to our people give us a chance not just to reduce the costs, which we're focused on, but reduce the cost while increasing the quality or people using the services that they need the most. So I want to thank eBlue for their continued dedication to Kentucky and their community, and I'm excited to see them continuing to grow. So the next one is something this week, I think we announced it yesterday or the day before, that is in Fulton County, that is increasing the size of a distillery project that we had previously announced. Startup Jackson Purchase Distillery announced plans in April of 2021. That was our record-breaking year. More private sector investment than we had ever seen at $11.2 billion. And this was a major one. This was an $8 million investment they announced in April of 2021. And they announced they were going to create 30 full-time jobs in Fulton County. Well, 18 months later, I'm happy to share that opportunity is only growing. They're significantly increasing their investment and the number of people they're going to hire. Company leaders are now tripling their investment to nearly $26 million, and they're close to doubling their job creations, now up to 54 full-time Kentucky jobs. Companies acquired an unused distillery established years ago and have begun an expansion of the property, including acquiring additional land, constructing space for barrel shortage, and various upgrades at the facility. The new jobs that are being created include a mechanical engineer, quality control manager, plant manager, and positions within boiler operations, grain processing, lab processing, and regulatory compliance. Once operational, they are going to make 60,000 barrels of bourbon a year and provide third-party distilling services for mid-size and large-scale customers, as well as small orders for craft distillers. This is a project that will greatly benefit our signature bourbon industry. I think just since I've become governor, we're about $1.2 to $1.3 billion in new investment in the spirits industry. We've never seen that over a 10-year period before. Really exciting and how they're growing. And all that leads in to this month being Manufacturing Month in Kentucky. It's a special time in the Commonwealth as manufacturing is the driving force behind our continued economic success. Kentucky is home to 5,000 manufacturing facilities, which employ nearly 250,000 people across our state. Think about that. 250,000 plus families that know how they're going to afford that next meal and that are creating a better life for their families. It represents almost 13% of our workforce. And you want to compare that, the national average is just 8.5%. So when they're talking nationally about we may see this or that happen, but manufacturing looks like it's going to be strong, it's a very good sign for Kentucky. To say manufacturing is important to the Kentucky way of life is a serious understatement. This sector contributes $37 billion of the state's domestic gross product, and manufacturers can contribute to our growth in so many areas, including automotive, aerospace, distribution and logistics, metals, healthcare, food and beverage, and agri-tech. Since I took office in late 2019, manufacturers have announced 475 private sector new location and expansion projects, which are creating more than 25,300 full-time jobs behind $18 billion in new investment. This is remarkable, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon based on the deal flow that we're seeing coming through economic development. So just this year, and we're just in October. Remember, this is the fourth quarter, and a lot of deals come through right at the end. So just this year, we've announced more than 80 manufacturing announcements that have totaled nearly $6 billion in investment and over 7,000 new quality jobs for our people. So today, I'm proud to officially proclaim April So now, today, I'm proud to officially declare October 20. Come on, that wasn't half as bad as the Tupac thing. October 2022 as Manufacturing Month in the Commonwealth. And today's signing is extra special because we have the Kentucky Association of Manufacturing here with us, who I'd like to invite up for the signing. Come on up, folks. Other than fluffing the mug. Come on.
Welcome.
Let's get it, everybody.
Behind her.
All right. All right, and here we go. All right, congratulations.
Thank you,
You
Governor.
can say
Thank you. Frank.
Give
I'll
it to
take
our
one.
chair elect.
All right. We got enough.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. There we go. All right.
Thank you.
And perfect number.
Okay,
All
Yay.
right, thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Gentlemen, good to see you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Of course. Thanks again. Thank you all. Good to see you. my friend. Absolutely. All right. So it's now official and it's October. All right. Next, a quick update on our general fund. And that update, like every month of the past 2 years, is incredibly positive. This week, our state budget director, John Hicks, who's also my executive cabinet secretary, reported that September's general fund receipts are the third highest revenue month ever, with revenues of more than $1.4 billion. Excluding a one-time $225 million legal settlement from last December, we can thank former Secretary Michael Brown for helping to make that a reality. General fund receipts grew by 15.6% year over year. This is the seventh month in this year where collections have exceeded $1 billion, something we had almost never seen, or maybe never seen, until the last 2 years. This increase shows, despite what we are seeing in other parts of the United States, Kentucky continues to have strong business and job growth, and that Kentuckians are confident in our economy. Road fund receipts also grew 1.2% in September, with collections of $139.3 million. This news follows last month's report that Kentucky led the nation in job growth in August by adding more than 26,000 jobs, most of them in the manufacturing sector. And in July, we reported the highest annual growth rate in 31 years. Nearly all of this past fiscal year's $1 billion surplus went to the Rainy Day Fund. That creates the largest, healthiest rainy day fund in our history. It's now $2.7 billion. Folks, when I came into office, it was $129 million. We're sitting here with the lowest or close to the lowest unemployment rate in Kentucky's history. 2 out of 3 bond rating agencies still rate our economy as positive. We have seen some really incredible news coming out in Kentucky. Let me take a moment to just say, I get that times right now are still tough for so many families. Inflation is real. Gas prices, thankfully, in Kentucky are way lower than they are in the rest of the country. And they haven't bounced back up nearly the level we've seen other places. In fact, they've gone down a couple cents in the last couple days. But still, food costs are incredibly high, and heating our homes this winter looks like it's going to be tough. So remember, we have programs out there. We've shown them before, and they're on our website, that we have ways to help those in need save some extra dollars. But also have faith. Have faith that these challenges, including inflation, are temporary. And what we're building, what we're talking about with Manufacturing Month, all these new businesses that are expanding, mean that while today is tough, tomorrow is filled with promise. more promise in this Commonwealth than I have ever seen in my lifetime. In the last couple of years, we became the electric vehicle battery production capital of the United States of America, right here in Kentucky. We're the agri-tech capital of the United States of America. Look at all these companies that are expanding. So our job is going to be to help our families deal with the challenges of the present, but knowing that once we push through them, man, what we're going to have right here in Kentucky with so many companies moving from other places right here is going to be something real special for your kids and grandkids as well as mine. So yes, stay hopeful, keep the faith, and we will make it. So with that, how about some extra good news for Western Kentucky? The Delta Regional Authority, which is a federal agency, has announced 8 investments totaling $4.6 million across Western Kentucky that are going to help us build that bright future. This is from the DRA's State's Economic Development Assistance Program, which is coming our way to support economic growth, new jobs, and infrastructure. In Marshall County, the fiscal court will use $520,000 to create safe traffic and access points in the industrial park development connecting to U.S. Highway 641. In Henderson, the Henderson Community College will use $650,000 to buy equipment that will double the training capacity of its manufacturing lab. This investment will provide training for 16 Kentuckians. The city of Greenville is receiving $380,000 for wastewater treatment plant improvements. The money will aid future economic development projects that require more capacity and will retain jobs, as well as help about 3,000 families that rely on that water. In Princeton, not too far from Dawson, $120,000 is going to the community medical clinic. It's going to buy an X-ray equipment for their rural clinics in Princeton and in Hopkinsville. From the DRA's Community Infrastructure Fund, $3 million is headed first. Paducah is going to receive $1.7 million for the Paducah-McCracken Joint Sewer Agency. It's going to connect the new Barkley Airport Terminal and 20 homes to public sewer infrastructure. When you look at Western Kentucky, right, we have the river, we have I-69, especially when we get that bridge built in Henderson. We have great rail, having a larger regional airport, which is why we're building the new terminal in Paducah. Will give that area all of the infrastructure tools that other areas of Kentucky have. It's something we're committed to. It's something that we're going to ensure we make happen. Next up, Christian County has $58,000 that will help upgrade water and electric utilities to accommodate the expansion of the Casey Jones Distillery in Hopkinsville. Remember, we talked about that right here not too long ago. We also have some good news for the city of Marion. Marion will use $1 million to build a new wastewater treatment plant. Remember, the city has been under a state of emergency because of their water for a while now. And while we have them stabilized, think about what a new wastewater treatment plant can mean to that area. And last up, the city of Morganfield will receive $160,000 for its water treatment plant sludge diversion project. This project will install a new pipeline, 3 manholes, and 4 sluice gates. The investment will benefit 2,000 families. I'm thankful to the DRA. I'm also thankful for our area development districts, which put in the applications for these. They are lifelines to these communities, so good job to our ad districts. All right, next we have Department of Juvenile Justice Preventing Youth Crime Grant Awards. As I've said over and over, and will continue to reinforce, as your governor, I'm committed to making Kentucky safe for each and every one of our families. I will work across party lines, team up with multiple agencies, reach out to our federal partners, work together with anyone and everyone that it takes to reduce the violent crime that we are seeing in some parts of Kentucky. Now, much of the violent crime we are seeing is being committed by juveniles. More crimes by our youth than I can remember, at least thinking back. So, yesterday, my administration awarded more than $350,000 in grant funding to agencies focused on reducing juvenile crime by intervening with first-time offenders and non-serious offenders. The idea here is typically the violent crime is not the first time that these youth have come through a DJJ facility or dealt with the court system. If we can intervene, if we can provide the right types of information and pathways, then our hope is to prevent more serious crime in the future and ultimately ensure that these youth are productive citizens. And especially while we've got all these jobs that we're creating out there, we need each and every one of them to be healthy and productive. These program funds will focus on alternatives to detention. They'll provide substance and alcohol abuse treatment, delinquency prevention, and education to achieve better outcomes in our juvenile justice system, both for our young people and also the communities that they are in. This is part of broader efforts where we've also worked to increase the amount of troopers and local law enforcement. We were able to come through with the largest pay raise, one-time pay raise in the history of the Kentucky State Police, something that they had more than earned. We've increased the stipends available to local law enforcement that also ensures that they are the best trained, receive the most hours of annual training of any state. And we have our military to law enforcement program now in effect. Our goal here is to ensure that we have safe communities, that our policing is done in a way to where everyone feels safer, and that we ultimately provide our families that reassurance that we are working really hard on public safety and to ensure that they are safe. Next, we'll move to the Eastern Kentucky flood update. As you know, a couple days ago, we announced another death with one of the two missing women that we had found and identified. Today, I'm sad to report the official death toll from July's flooding has risen to 43, with 2 additional deaths caused by health conditions directly arising from the flooding. These losses are out of Letcher and Breathitt counties. So let us pray for those families and all of Eastern Kentucky as we continue to try to stabilize the region and ultimately turn towards rebuilding. So we now have 43 fatalities in 6 counties. It's 10 from Breathitt, 2 from Clay, 19 from Knott, 4 from Letcher, 7 from Perry, and 1 from Pike. And remember, we still have 1 missing person, Vanessa Baker of Breathitt County. If you have any information on Miss Baker, please contact Post 13 and Hazard at 606-435-6069. As a FEMA update, at my request, FEMA has extended the deadline to apply for federal disaster assistance to October 28th. That's for survivors in Breathitt, Clay, Floyd, Knott, Lee, Leslie, Letcher, Magoffin, Martin, Owsley, Perry, Pike, and Whitley counties. Kentuckians can apply through the ways up here. The website, disasterassistance.gov, the phone number, as well as the disaster recovery centers, if we can put those up. Remember, going to a disaster recovery center is the best way to work on your claim. If you have been denied, if you believe you've gotten too little, these people can help you directly. And they have promised that there's decision-making authority at each of the local centers. Go and look somebody in the eye. Make sure that you get directly from them what your claim needs. So we are really grateful for the emergency response of FEMA, the number of people that they brought in immediately to help with search and rescue. I'm really pleased with some of the rebuilding ideas that they have once we secure the land. I think we'd all like to see them do better on the individual assistance program. This is the best way to push your cause. Don't take no for an answer. Keep going in, keep working on your claim. Disaster recovery centers in Breathitt, Letcher, Perry, and Pike are open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. In Knott, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And the Multi-Agency Resource Center in Clay and Floyd are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Total amount approved for individuals and households program, more than $76.5 million from FEMA. They've received a total of 15,527 valid applications. They have approved for some amount of payment, $8,050. of those. The National Flood Insurance Program has now paid out $22.1 million. U.S. Small Business Association has now paid out $53.7 million. Filing deadline for Small Business Association, October 28, 2022. In our Parks and Sheltering Program, since the last update, we had 21 individuals that have transitioned out of state parks. Remember, those are some of the best numbers. Those are when people find more stable, longer-term housing. So we currently have 276 people sheltered at state parks. It's 143 people at Jenny Wiley, 115 at Buckhorn, 18 at Carr Creek, and then we have 16 sheltered in 6 hotels. In our travel trailer program, this is what we call our Commonwealth Sheltering Program. Can we put that up? A whole lot of progress. We now have over 284 travel trailers on site in 10 locations. I think we're now more than double what we ever had in the West. We have increased 35 travel trailers since the last update. And there are a couple of new areas. Remember, we were trying to get the utilities to the Breathitt County Jackson site and the Letcher County Jenkins site. So what we now have is we now have the travel trailers that we've already taken there. We're working on getting them hooked up. Remember, this is something you have to do safely to ensure the safety of everybody in the community. The wiring has to be right. The utilities have to be right. We can't move somebody in until it is safe. And as you see, a lot of these areas have most definitely filled up once we've been able to get them online and going. You know, Pike County didn't have anybody occupied in their site the last time that we talked. So really good progress here. The 26 households transitioned out is also a good number. Remember, these are our top of the line travel trailers that people can stay for an extended period of time. This means they are finding better and longer term housing. So we now have, when you look at it, 532 individuals that are in this program. There is one household and 2 trailers because of its size. Now, we've changed a number here, and I want to make sure you see it. We used to have in the top left just the total applications online, but that number wasn't helpful because it didn't subtract those that we then later housed, and it didn't remove those that have come back and said, we found other options, we are no longer interested. So the new number on the top left is how many households that are still interested in the program there are. So this shows you the true demand as opposed to just the total number of people that have gone on to the website. So we still have 323 households pending, which is more than we'd like. But remember, we've got enough trailers. We don't have enough sites, and then we've got to hook them up. The Breathitt and the Letcher County, we had to build out almost from scratch. They weren't pre-existing sites that we could otherwise fill. So a lot of good work being done here. KYTC update, another 283 loads of debris were removed just yesterday from right-of-ways and waterways. That amounted to 4,123 tons. Total number of debris removed to date, 23,283 loads. And get this, that is almost 350,000 tons of debris that's now been removed, 344,457. To date, we have now cleaned 173 miles of creeks and streams. 37 flood damaged cars and trucks have been moved to vehicle management sites. 2 have been reclaimed. To those in Eastern Kentucky, what you are seeing in debris removal, I know is helpful. First of all, it takes that chaos and moves it out. But second, you're going to see it in other areas too. It takes a while to get it started, to get everything in place, to have the resources there. But man, once it starts, it picks up speed and you really see it. We're working towards that in long-term housing as well. We are in active negotiations on multiple potential sites where we could provide new housing to folks. We're working with FEMA about how their program can work in and how we could turn what has to be direct temporary housing from them into long-term housing. The plans are coming together well. We'll have more on this in the future. The first goal is to access the property and then ultimately run what additional utilities or utilities in the first place are needed. The fund, the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund, passed by the legislature, gives us the dollars we need to do that, to acquire and to build out these sites. So as it was intended, the fund is working towards us getting long-term new housing in these areas. A couple of other things from CHFS. Department of Community-Based Services received approval to extend the hot food waiver until November 1st, and those occur in the wider group of counties that were impacted, not just the individual assistance counties. The Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund, now 37,491 donations, a little over $10 million. We distributed 3.7 million of that. First, 41 funerals. We paid for each and every one of them. First thing we do is grieve together. We'll be paying for 2 more based on today's announcement. And then we have now sent out 6,762 checks. That's for those that have been approved for any level of individual assistance, each $500 apiece. That now totals $3,381,000. That number will grow as more people are approved through FEMA. And you can expect the vast majority of the remaining dollars will go towards permanent long-term housing in this overall plan that right now we're working to secure the land for. It will be a program by design to work with nonprofits very similar to what we did in Western Kentucky to get that housing up and moving. I want to thank some new donors to the fund. A special thanks to Four Roses Distillery. They held an event and released a special bourbon with all proceeds benefiting the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund. Get this. The event raised $320,116.59. So a big thanks to Four Roses. Also, a thanks for Western Kentucky to Kentucky coach John Calipari and his wife Ellen. They donated $10,000 to that fund. Coach Cal and Ellen have been a part of many fundraising events for Eastern and Western Kentucky. Listen, we appreciate every dollar that's raised that goes towards helping our people, regardless of what fund it's raised into. What's good for the people of Eastern and Western Kentucky, we are all for. Donations are still being accepted, and they are very much needed, especially as we get into building the long-term housing. If you think about our numbers, we've got about $6.7 million right now that looks like it'd go into the long-term housing. We did at least $16 million that we had available in Western Kentucky. And there are just as big, if not more of a need in the East. So that brings me to an exciting announcement. And that's about the blue-white game that the University of Kentucky is hosting in Eastern Kentucky to raise funds. And they're raising funds for this Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund. So this year, the University of Kentucky's men's basketball annual blue-white game will be held in Pikeville at Kentucky's Appalachian Wireless Arena on Saturday, October 22nd. We're asking for people to donate $100 to the Team EKY Flood Relief Fund.ky.gov, and that's going to sponsor a flood victim to attend the blue-white game. This is an idea that came from University of Kentucky Athletics, about how we can get folks that have been through a lot to be able to go to this special game. And all ticket revenue, all $100 that you would be putting in to sponsor a flood victim to go to the game is going to go to the fund and then be there to help those and other individuals. So thanks to the University of Kentucky and the men's basketball program for bringing this game to Eastern Kentucky. It's the first time the game has left Lexington in 30 years. That's a big deal. And it just shows how our universities treasure this entire state and want to be a part of doing the right thing. You can go on to this website, and there is a button on it to donate the $100 to support a flood victim for going to the game. We'll put more out on that on social media. We encourage everybody who has the opportunity to help. Okay, I'm also pleased to announce another $3.1 million from the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund are going out to communities and public entities to support the rebuilding. $100,000 is going to the city of Hindman to help ease financial strain and provide funds to support general government services. $5,000 to the city of Paintsville to relieve financial resources. $3 million to the Perry County Fiscal Court, again, for the stress, the economic stress it's put on government services. And while some of these amounts seem small, remember, these communities can come back and reapply and reapply. So this is getting them dollars as they need it on an ongoing basis. With today's awards, we've now issued $4.4 million in payments. But remember, it's a $213 million fund that is going to continue to pay out to help. What we saw in Western Kentucky is not all of it started. In fact, the fund wasn't set up until about 6 months after. So we will see more requests coming in. Speaking of that Western Kentucky Safe Fund, requests are still coming in, and we have more awards today. They include $24,440 to the Princeton Water District to cover the FEMA required applicant share of their repairs, and $34,670 to Taylor County for non-FEMA eligible debris removal. To date, more than $78.3 million of SAFE Act funds have been distributed since December's tornadoes. We get that dollars, these funds or others, is never going to be able to replace what's been lost. I mean, when people lose their entire home, you lose all your photos, all those memories. You lose a place that is so safe and important to you. But our hope is it can help in the rebuilding effort and maybe build those new homes and memories and prevent more strain on families. Just think about the infrastructure piece. Helping on the repair side means those costs aren't passed on to consumers so that people don't get a high water bill when they might not even be getting water to their home at the moment. We're also distributing gift cards to new homeowners and volunteers in Western Kentucky. To date, we've collected over 14,000 in gift cards. These gift cards to grocery stores and home improvement stores are going to be a part of a welcoming package to families moving into new homes built through especially nonprofit areas. Remember, 300 homes are being built in Western Kentucky in our collaboration with Habitat, the Fuller House, and Homes for Hope. Over 50 are going to be completed by the end of the year. And finally, to the helpers, to those that are volunteer their time and their effort, restaurant gift cards will be provided to those who are doing remodeling and reconstruction of damaged properties. All right, I'm going to do a quick COVID update, turn it over to Dr. Stack for just a little bit more. This is good news. It is almost all good news at the moment when it comes to COVID. The number of new cases reported each week continues to decline. And look, with the stair-stepper chart showing we have had multiple weeks of decline and or plateau. And we have fewer Kentuckians hospitalized. Let's show that line graph than at any point during the past 2 years. Pretty incredible that it is continuing to decrease. And when you look at our map, there is more green on it than we have certainly had in months. But as Dr. Stack is going to talk about, we're about to hit Thanksgiving, where a whole lot of people will get together, where we know this thing can spread. So as he will say, we need you to get your booster, the new booster that includes Omicron. And remember that just yesterday, the FDA authorized that booster for children 5 years of age and older. And remember, don't go to work, don't go out if you have COVID, right? Make sure you're protecting everybody else. And don't forget about your flu shot. Quick update on monkeypox. Total of 63 cases reported in Kentucky from 15 different counties, all of them in adults. More than 5,500 doses of monkeypox vaccine have been administered in Kentucky. Anybody who thinks they're eligible can go to the KDPH website to find an interactive map of locations where the monkeypox vaccine is available. So with a little more on COVID, and then on a new website to help us reduce foodborne illnesses, let's welcome back Dr. Stack.
Thank you, Governor. Hello, Kentucky. It's nice to be back. So you've become accustomed to me talking about COVID and other infectious diseases. And so the image that the governor had up here, I'm just going to emphasize the points he already made. We have less than 300 people in the hospital for COVID-19. We have less than 15 people on ventilators presently for COVID-19. To say it differently, that's 1/8 of our high all-time peak for people in the hospital. for general hospitalizations and 1/36 of the critical care use for ventilators from our all-time peak. So we are solidly now in the living with COVID phase. Living with COVID phase does not mean, folks, though, that COVID is gone. We still sadly announce 60 to 80 deaths every week from COVID. It'll still be the third leading cause of death in Kentucky this year. And we still have more than 300 variants that the World Health Organization tracks across the world. A subset of those are ones of particular concern. So what can we do about it? Thankfully now, what we're asking is much more tailored, much more focused. Please get your booster. There's a brand new booster out this fall. It's an enhanced booster. It has the original strain plus the current strains most widely in circulation, the BA4 and BA5 variants. The vaccine is widely available for people 12 and older. And just yesterday, I believe the FDA approved Pfizer for children 5 and older and Moderna for everyone 6 and older. So within a couple weeks, you should be able to go get your children 5 and older boosted throughout the state at pharmacies, doctors' offices, clinics, and a wide variety of places. So that is the single most important thing you can do to keep yourself safe from severe illness and death, is to get vaccinated. The other things are, please, as the governor said, get your flu shot. Every year we still have millions or tens of millions of people who get influenza, up to tens of thousands who die from influenza. When you get your COVID booster, you can get your flu shot at the same time. It's perfectly safe. Many folks are doing that, and I encourage you to please consider doing it to keep yourself safe. Also, the governor also said this, please, if you are sick, stay home. Even before COVID, it was not a good idea to be sick and contagious and spread infection to others. It's particularly not good now when we have the risk of a bad flu season because it's been suppressed over the last few years. We've already seen in Australia and other Southern Hemisphere states or countries that influenza has been more severe this year. So please get your COVID booster and get your flu shot and stay home if you are sick. And finally, folks, I continue to be impressed after more than 2.5 years in this job, how we were kind and caring to each other throughout the pandemic and how that helped us all get through this and get through it better together. I still find that kindness out there when I travel and visit with people in their communities. Please provide a supportive environment for those folks who wear masks when they're out in public. There are vulnerable people who are on chemotherapy or powerful medications or have organ transplants who still need to take extra precautions because even with a booster, it's not sufficient and they need to do extra measures. Please, let's make sure they feel welcome and supported and that we're kind and caring as they take care of themselves so we can all have happy holidays closer to the ones we last knew back in 2019 with less impairment from COVID. Now, I don't just run a department that deals only with respiratory diseases. We do a lot else in public health across the Commonwealth to help support and keep you healthy and safe. So if we could show my first slide, please, Scotty. So I am announcing here today a new food safety website. This food safety reporting system is an online system that will allow Kentuckians to report online soon after they encounter or believe they've encountered a food-related illness. This site is now available to all Kentuckians. You can go to foodsafetyreporting.ky.gov, and this website that I'll show the screenshot in a minute is available. On this slide, though, it mentions when you think you ate a food that may have made you sick. So this could be a food you eat at a restaurant, could be one that you get at a street vendor or some other food service provider. It could be one you purchased at the grocery store and consumed at home or some other retail outlet. If you think you or family members have become sick from a foodborne illness, you can go to the website, you can report some information about yourself, the circumstances, and that will very quickly be sent on to your local health department. We work in a very intricate system with local health departments, the state public health department, and also federal agencies to try to keep the food system safe for all people in the United States. You hear about this in the news from time to time when there are food recalls or outbreaks because of various infections. The sooner we know about these things, the sooner we can look into them and see if there's a pattern and see if we can intervene quickly to keep more people safe and to avoid harm. On the next slide, please. Once you submit this, what will happen are the things I just said. If there is additional clarification needed, people will reach out to you from probably the local health department or perhaps the state health department to gather that information so we can intervene quickly. And on the final slide, this is what the website looks like. And on the right-hand side, it says report suspected foodborne illness. If you click on that link, and you can do this both from the internet on your computer or from your smartphone, you can provide the basic information requested, and then I have confidence that this will be followed up on, and we'll reach out to you if we find that there's a problem. But folks, these are tools to help empower you as individual citizens and consumers to participate meaningfully and actively in our processes and systems to help keep you and everyone else safe. And it's a real privilege to be part of the Kentucky Department for Public Health and Kentucky Public Health more largely, I guess, if that's correct, for the work that they do every day to help keep you safe. So thank you very much, and Governor.
Well, thank you to Dr. Stack. And just briefly touching on COVID, we're also now over 17,000 total deaths here in Kentucky due to COVID. So for those that try to talk about it, that it wasn't a big deal or that critical steps shouldn't have been taken. Remember, it was the number 3 cause of death the last couple of years. It gave cancer a run for its money. It's reduced the life expectancy of Kentuckians and Americans significantly, something that we haven't seen in our lifetime. And it's killed more Kentuckians than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam put together. And this has been a tough period of time for everybody. But let's remember how serious it's been, how many people we've lost. And if we hadn't taken the steps that we have taken, that number would have been tens of thousands of Kentuckians higher. So for everybody out there that sacrificed, listen, thank you. It was necessary. And because of you, there are still so many Kentuckians that are with us that otherwise wouldn't be. Let's also remember 17,000 plus families that have lost a loved one in the last, 2.5 years alone. We're going to be processing this grief for years to come. So we hope to have updates on the COVID memorial that we're putting in right here on the Capitol grounds. This has been a difficult historical moment that we have lived through. And we want to memorialize the loss, but also lift up the caregivers, those that have sacrificed. Everybody had to fight this battle, from our youngest children to our oldest adults. Thank you to everybody for your courage and your tenacity in fighting this battle together. All right, reminder on child tax credit sign up. Kentucky families who have not filed taxes in 2019 or 2020 still have time to check their eligibilities to sign up for the child tax credit under the American Rescue Plan Act. If you missed out on the child tax credit payments during 2021, then please visit getctc.org through November 15th and filed a simplified return, or call 211 to learn more. Anyone who has a child with social security number is eligible. This money is not a loan and doesn't change public benefits you may receive. If it applies to you or someone you know, please don't miss this opportunity. All right, let's turn to medical cannabis. We've provided a couple updates recently, but I want to talk about this and the pardons that the president has announced, and put that in context for what it actually does and how it might relate to Kentucky law, because I want everybody out there to have the full context of what we're looking at. First, we know that polling suggests 90% of Kentucky adults support legalizing medical cannabis. 90+%. And despite wide public support, legislation on medical cannabis continues to fail in the General Assembly. When 90% of people are for something and the General Assembly refuses to pass it, that is a direct failure of the General Assembly. It's supposed to serve the people that it represents. It leaves those suffering from Alzheimer's, ALS, cancer, severe and chronic pain, epilepsy, and seizures, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other conditions without access to a substance that may help and is legal in other states for these conditions. In many other states, those suffering can work with their healthcare providers to gain access to medical cannabis to help treat their symptoms, which can be an alternative to highly addictive opioids that have just ravaged our state, killed generations of our people. And still, opioids are prescribed in this state and others at a high rate to deal with pain. So with so many in need, in April I outlined steps that my administration would take on this important topic. First, I asked my legal team to begin analyzing options under the law about what executive actions we could take towards moving towards legalizing medical cannabis. I established a medical cannabis advisory team, which included Kentuckians with experience in advocacy, healthcare, treatment of addiction, law enforcement, criminal justice, to travel around the state, and they listened directly to Kentuckians. We invited Kentuckians to communicate with us via a designated email. If they could not make one of those meetings, they still wanted their voice to be heard. The legislature wouldn't listen to them. My administration was going to. And following the advisory's team meetings with Kentuckians and receiving feedback a little less than 2 weeks ago, we published a summary of what Kentuckians had to say, and it was overwhelmingly clear. Kentuckians agree that it's past time for the Commonwealth to take action on legalizing medical cannabis. The summary included a couple of key findings. Kentuckians of all ages are suffering from chronic conditions. Medical providers are prescribing opioids and painkillers that aren't working, and Kentuckians are fearful of their addictive properties. Research indicates individuals cannot overdose from cannabis. They certainly do on opioids and opiates. Kentuckians are leaving the state to access medical cannabis in states where it is legal. They want to be able to return to the Commonwealth, but if they return to the Commonwealth with the medicine that's been suggested to them, they're suddenly a criminal. And Kentucky military veterans explained to us that PTSD was significantly eased by the use of cannabis. We are not allowing people who we deployed to protect our interests abroad, who have been harmed because of it, to receive treatment that they can get in other states. And military veterans attending town halls emphasized the benefits of cannabis in reducing PTSD symptoms. Some described inability to sleep because of the disorders, while others reported being prescribed numerous medications to ease pain, treat anxiety, sleep, or just move their joints fully. A veteran from Northern Kentucky who served both in Iraq and Afghanistan described his daily struggle after being prescribed 13 medications that weren't working for him and which left him contemplating suicide. After turning to cannabis, he said within a year, I didn't drink and was off 12 of the 13 medications. I still have those injuries and disabilities, he said, but I can function, I can live, I can have friendships and conversations again. I appreciate the work of those who spoke and participated, and we are taking this information into consideration and hope to have new steps to announce here in the near future. And then pivoting to what happened, last week, the president announced that he would pardon all prior federal offenses of simple possession of marijuana, and he asked that states do the same for state-level charges. He also directed the United States Attorney General to develop an administrative process for issuing those certificate of pardons. At the time, the White House hadn't briefed us at all. I will tell you, as a governor, I had no idea that this was coming. So we have taken the last 7 days to go over what it means federally, and then to look at the correlating state statutes. For those that have watched in the last couple of years, you know that we are deliberative in how we process information that leads to decisions, and we like to discuss what the information is so Kentuckians can have all the information. So I'm going to go over a couple things. We're going to start with what the federal pardons cover and ultimately do not cover. So President Biden issued a presidential proclamation that grants a pardon for federal convictions of simple marijuana possession. This is the main statute that they're talking about. It's 21 USC 844. A couple of things that are really important here because they're going to be different than state law, which I'm going to show you. Simple possession starts as a misdemeanor under federal law, but then it ratchets up to a felony. So we're going to show you in a minute that doesn't happen in Kentucky. It remains a misdemeanor. But under the federal law, the first offense is a misdemeanor. It's it has possible jail time. It has a fine of a minimum of $1,000. Subsequent offenses increase, are felonies, and have other and higher potential jail sentences, as well as fines. We can go to the next one. Okay, so the proclamation applies to federal convictions, but it only applies to federal convictions. Let's start down at this bullet point before October 6, 2022. In other words, it is not an ongoing pardon moving forward that somehow legalizes possession. And it only applies to the simple possession of marijuana, not other drug-related charges. So nothing about conspiracy, distribution, what we would call trafficking in Kentucky, possession with the intent to distribute, or any other charges related to marijuana. It's this one general statute, which is just possession. It also doesn't apply to possession of multiple substances. Under the federal law, they can charge you with one charge of possession where it's multiple different drugs. In the state, we charge separate charges for separate drugs. But if it is one charge or a charge with multiple drugs in it, it does not apply. And it doesn't apply to non-citizens without legal status at the time of their arrest. Now, the president has admitted this applies to about 6,600 people in a country of 330 million. So it is not a large group of Americans that are going to receive one of these pardons, though that doesn't mean it's not important. Again, this is just trying to give context. And there is nobody that is serving jail time under the federal system for simple possession. Again, important things to point out. Now let's flip to the next one. I already mentioned that. Let's go to the next one. So the president also said that he's calling on states and governors to look at doing the same under state law. I just want to talk about what the differences and similarities are. Our statute on simple possession of marijuana is 218A 1422. And under that, it's a Class B misdemeanor with a maximum penalty of 45 days, though I think you'll hear from law enforcement, this is most often a citation now. Simple possession of marijuana, which in Kentucky has to be under a certain amount. If you're over a certain amount in Kentucky, it's evidence of the intent to sell. So this has been a misdemeanor going back, I think, to the 70s. So it has not been a felony in the last 50 years here in Kentucky. Now, it was a Class A misdemeanor at one point. That is a higher level misdemeanor. It is now a Class B misdemeanor now. And here's another thing. Unlike the federal system, there are no enhancements. For other drugs, there are enhancements about multiple possession counts. There is not for marijuana. So at least under the information I have and have analyzed, there's no ratcheting up. So if all you have been arrested or convicted for is marijuana possession, most employers, you wouldn't even have to check a box. That's most often a felony. Here's the other thing. A pardon is different than expungement. So in Kentucky right now, we have an expungement process where you can get this removed from your record completely. Meaning if you go through the process, it wouldn't even show up on a search. A pardon is different. A pardon would show up on that search, if not expunged, but then you would provide proof of your pardon. Is that our last slide? Oh, so here's where we are. First, that's the overall context that we are looking at, with the state charge being different than the federal charge. But nevertheless, we want to see how many people, because having a misdemeanor on your record isn't a small thing. We want to know how many people this would apply to. So we've asked AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts, to get us that information. The first thing they're going to do is get us the information of how many people have had one of these convictions in the last 5 years. And then we're going to go back further because it is a pretty decent size undertaking for them to do. So in this context, and then with the numbers that we're going to see, we're going to get the overall scope of what the president is asking, and we'll be able to take a look at this. Let me just say, nobody should ever go to jail for a simple possession of marijuana. And right now in Kentucky, they don't. It could be that charge is with a bunch of other more serious charges. But to our knowledge, there isn't anyone in jail or prison in Kentucky right now solely for the simple possession of marijuana. Obviously, the charge could potentially do that, and there is, I know, a real concern by folks about that. But while we're analyzing this, anybody out there who this is the only thing on their record, go to our website and apply for a pardon. This is how you apply for a pardon and a commutation here in Kentucky. Now, if your conviction is a certain age, you should have automatically, it's not a felony, so you wouldn't have lost your voting rights or your ability to run for office, which happens in the federal system. But if you get the federal pardon, make sure that your voting rights here have been restored as well. But if all you have on your record is a simple possession of marijuana, a Class B, or when it was a Class A misdemeanor, look at applying for a pardon in the meantime. It's something that we will take a very close look at as we further analyze both our ability to move towards legalization of medical cannabis, as well as this request on simple possession. All right, with that, we have reached the end, with the exception of recognizing our Team Kentucky All-Stars, which today is our Kentucky Association of Manufacturers. Like we said earlier, it's Manufacturing Month, and we have lots of reasons to celebrate. More than 260,000 Kentuckians employed in this important industry, and the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers is an important partner to this administration and to the Commonwealth in advocating for the success of manufacturing and fostering investment and job growth. Our combined efforts have helped this industry see ongoing success with 25,300 new full-time jobs, over $18 billion invested since we took office. CAM works with educators and manufacturers to provide training and seminars to make the Commonwealth an attractive option for manufacturing brands, new ones such as Pratt Paper, Veland, Novellus, Firestone, Lion First Responder PPE, Fruhoff, and so many more. From cars to peanut butter to Post-it notes to baseballs, you name it, Kentucky is probably making it. Disco balls too. There are nearly 5,000 manufacturing facilities operating in our state. So many of our people are better off for our manufacturers and for the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers. So to them, congratulations on being our Team Kentucky All-Stars. All right, after an hour and 15 minutes, we'll open it up to questions. We got 3 journalists here and 1 on the phone. We'll start with Tom Latek, who would never miss a Team Kentucky update.
I have a question on this. It's more of a Dr. Stack question, but I'm sure you did read. The new website to report foodborne illness, will that also have information on that? Yes.
Yes.
Will that also have information for people on current outbreaks, so to speak, of food safety here?
So our goal is to use this website to have more information to put out the alerts. You know, we put out the alerts when there is foodborne illness, and now we can not only do that for the public, but we can go directly to the manufacturers and the growers. So imagine if we could pick up a coli that much earlier and stop other people from buying products that may be in it. And listen, anybody who's had food poisoning, and it's probably all of us, wouldn't wish that on anybody else. And this is an opportunity to actually take that wish and to put it into reality. The success of this is going to be how many people are willing to go online and to use it. All right. So if you have a foodborne illness, just make sure you report it and help that next person to our manufacturers here. That'll prevent more people from being out. It'll make us more productive, which we are when we are healthier. Carolina.
Governor, when it comes to the marijuana pardons, you said likely there's no one in Kentucky that's in jail simply for simple possession of marijuana. I guess I'm just trying to simplify this for the people. You're still considering what the White House wants
Yes.
you to do with all of this?
Yes. Today we're trying to give the overall context. Listen, having a criminal record is a real thing. and it can be a problem. And having a criminal record, especially solely for the simple possession of marijuana, I can absolutely understand the request and what's out there. I think the president's action is in large part based on felonies that occur under federal law, which he's pardoning, and other states can have ratcheted up penalties that include felonies. So I'm just trying to set out the context that things are a little different here in Kentucky, but nonetheless, some people may have a hard time getting a job because of a misdemeanor simple possession conviction. Now that is something they can get expunged. And I also wanted to make sure I got out there for those that are advocating for this, the difference between a pardon and an expungement and what people might want to be looking at. But yes, I'm actively considering what the federal government, what the president has asked, at the same time that I'm advocating very strongly for medical marijuana. So I know there are two slightly different issues, but I don't think anybody should ever go to jail for simple possession of marijuana. It is important to note that the president's action isn't decriminalizing it going forward based on the pardons. Now, he is asking the U.S. Attorney General to look at rescheduling it, which would be a huge game changer all across the United States on whether it would be a crime in the future or not. So, again, I'm trying to be thoughtful and get out all the pieces, but yes, I'm actively considering what he's asked, even though it doesn't have the same result of pardoning felonies that it does under the federal system. And I need to see the numbers that come back on numbers of individuals. And I'm sure that we will hear from more people as we move forward. Bodie Brooks.
Thank you, Governor. I want to go back to the $350,000 youth crime grant. Can you talk to me a bit about the need for this and what we're seeing as of late with spikes in youth crime, particularly in my city of Lexington? What opportunities there may be for more cities to get grants?
So Lexington, Louisville, and some other places are seeing violent crime that is concerning. We've got to do everything we can to try to reduce it. Part of that is increasing law enforcement, which we've done through raises to the Kentucky State Police, a new military to law enforcement, increasing the CLEP fund that's available to both law enforcement and firefighters. But so much of what we're seeing are offenses committed by youth. We're seeing more shootings by youth, by juveniles than I can ever remember. And most of the time, that shooting isn't their first brush with the law or the first time they've been in the system. This is an attempt in that very first time, non-serious offenders or first-time offenders, that we can directly work with them to try to prevent it from escalating. And so those will be things like substance abuse treatment, working with them to find different options, communicating very clearly what life can be like if they don't change their pattern of behavior. The very best thing we can do to stop a crime is prevent it from happening. And here we also have youth that are committing them that are also destroying the rest of their lives. They may be taking a life, which is tragic, and then destroying the rest of their life in the process. So addressing violent crime isn't a simple thing. It takes us, first of all, not using it as a political weapon to try to beat different people over the head, but actually trying to reduce it, taking the steps to do it and doing that in a multifaceted way with as many approaches as possible. All of our families deserve not only to be safe, but to feel safe. And a lot of what we need to do is reduce overall crime, no matter where it's occurring, to help people both in those neighborhoods and communities be safe, but also everywhere else to feel safe. Melissa Patrick, Kentucky Health News.
Hi, Governor. So while it's great news that COVID-19 cases are dropping in Kentucky, for months, on any given week, Kentucky still ranks #1 for the number of new cases, and more than any other state. And so how much responsibility as governor do you take for these high numbers when compared to other states that we're still having?
I think, our numbers now are where they are. You go back at any point in in this pandemic, and different states had more cases than others. I'm certainly grateful that we were able to get through the most difficult times when we had no vaccines, when we didn't have the right types of treatments, when we didn't have enough PPE, without being at the tops or near the top of cases, of deaths, and of some of the tragedies we saw in other states. Where we are now is people have the opportunity to make their own decisions based on information that is widely available, based on masks of the highest quality that are available in every community, based on boosters that we can give you one if you decide to have one today. And we need more people to get boosted. But here's the other thing. We're still reporting, and we're still reporting honestly, where so many states have stopped providing the federal government numbers, or they report them less frequently, or they're not trying to determine numbers and deaths. So we have more COVID than I would like. But Melissa, I think you've seen that we are earnestly trying to be accurate in our data, where other states are trying to bury it or ignore it. To me, we have to honor those that have struggled and that we have lost. We've got to honor those that have made sacrifices and continue to make sacrifices. And we got to give people accurate information about whether they should consider wearing a mask or getting that booster shot. And that's just about being clear on our data, whether it's positive or negative. I don't. You'd have to look at how many states have made that same decision, but we're always going to be honest with the people of Kentucky. All right. Thank you all very much. We'll be back next Thursday.